Ferrari betrayed Lewis Hamilton in Brazil, and now he's quietly exposing them from the inside out. Why did they give him the slowest spec, ignore his feedback, and act like he wasn't part of the team while publicly backing Leclerc? In this video, we reveal Ferrari's biggest mistake of the season, how it triggered Hamilton's silent revenge, and why this drama in Maranello is far from over. Because when a 7-time world champion is pushed to the edge, he doesn't fold. He rewrites the rules. It started with a silent walk back to the garage. No celebration. No excuses. Just Lewis Hamilton helmet off, head down, stepping out of a Ferrari that had betrayed him on every single lap in Sao Paulo. The 7-time world champion, who joined the Scuderia to write a new chapter of legacy, had been handed a car that was undrivable by design. And while the headlines focused on his retirement, Hamilton's real answer was already forming, not on the radio, not in the media, but deep inside the telemetry. In Brazil, the problem wasn't pace. It was politics. While Charles Leclerc received the newest floor and rear suspension updates, Hamilton's car was still running an older spec. Tires wouldn't come into temperature. Rear-end grip was non-existent. From the very first lap, he was fighting a machine that never had the tools to win. And then, to make matters worse, came the floor damage, slicing over 30 points of aero load and making the SF25 nearly impossible to handle through medium-speed corners. But Ferrari didn't react. No aggressive strategy. No performance tweaks. No alternative compound switch. Instead, they let him slip backwards. Quietly. Deliberately. Until lap 37, when the team retired the car under the vague excuse of engine preservation. Behind closed doors, everyone knew the truth. Hamilton wasn't the priority that weekend. He was the baseline. The control variable. The man whose data would serve the other side of the garage. And this is where Ferrari made their biggest mistake. They assumed he would accept it. That Hamilton, in the twilight of his career, would simply fade into the background while the team focused on Leclerc. But Lewis didn't react emotionally. He went back to work. Simulator sessions increased. Setup meetings shifted tone. And then, 2 races later, came the first blow, a clean, clinical drive that pushed a slower car into direct battle with the upgraded Ferrari and proved that Hamilton was still operating at a level the team hadn't accounted for. Inside Maranello, tension grew. Engineers started noticing it. The older spec car, the one Hamilton was supposed to just maintain, began delivering laps dangerously close to the upgraded chassis. Sector times tightened. Tire degradation improved. And worst of all for Ferrari's internal politics? Hamilton wasn't saying a word. His silence was now louder than their strategy. Because every tenth he found in that outdated machine exposed exactly how wrong they'd been to sideline him. Now the question isn't whether Hamilton is fighting back. He already is. The real question is what happens next when the most successful driver in modern Formula One, pushed to the edge by his own team, decides to turn every lap into a warning shot. Ferrari wanted a clear number one. Instead, they've sparked a rivalry, and woke up a version of Hamilton that plays the long game, strikes without noise, and always delivers when the world is watching. To the public, Hamilton's retirement in Brazil looked like a mechanical issue. But inside the data, the cold, undeniable numbers, the truth was far more calculated. The moment the SF25 hit the track, Hamilton was already 2 steps behind. Tire surface temperatures failed to reach optimal levels throughout FP2 and qualifying. Rear grip was unstable, especially through Interlagos critical mid-speed turns like Ferradura and Pinheirinho, where a balanced platform is non-negotiable. But grip wasn't the only issue. Telemetry showed that Hamilton's car lacked aero consistency from Sector 1. That's not a setup flaw, it's a design limitation. The floor he ran in Brazil was a legacy version, one that hadn't received the revised Venturi tunnel geometry or diffuser edge enhancements that Leclerc had debuted 2 races earlier. The delta? Over 30 aero points lost after lap 1, following minor floor contact. That meant reduced downforce, unpredictable corner entry, and brutal instability on exits. Ferrari called it non-critical. But for a driver like Hamilton who extracts lap time through precision, not chaos, it was race braking. Braking zones shifted. Steering response was off. And any attempt to push simply punished the tires harder. He wasn't competing. He was surviving. And the engineers knew it. But here's what made it worse, this wasn't a one-off. It was planned. Hamilton's car didn't just underperform, it was never meant to match Leclerc's. Behind the scenes, Ferrari had assigned all short-term development to one side of the garage. The other? It was tasked with stability, repeatability, data clarity. In simple terms, Hamilton was driving a reference car. A moving lab. The man who was brought in to lead Ferrari's new era was instead being used to support the driver they'd already chosen as their future. That choice, strategic, political, silent, is what Brazil exposed. And Hamilton knew it. His driving wasn't emotional. It was analytical. His throttle traces were controlled. His radio was quiet. And when the call came to retire the car, he didn't argue. Because he understood what Ferrari had just shown him, not with words, but with numbers. They didn't believe he was the priority anymore. But by giving him the slowest car and the least support, they handed him the clearest proof. And for a driver like Hamilton, proof is all he needs to start writing the next move. What happened in Brazil wasn't spontaneous. It was the result of a decision made inside Maranello weeks earlier during a confidential engineering summit after the Mexican Grand Prix. Ferrari had reached a crossroads. With limited upgrade tokens left for the season and 2026 development looming, they chose to concentrate resources on a single stream of development, Charles Leclerc's car. Hamilton's side of the garage was to become the control sample, consistent, stable, predictable, but not competitive. Internally, they called it dual-stream optimization. But the reality was brutal. Leclerc's chassis received the upgraded floor, advanced rear suspension kinematics, and revised brake duct cooling. Hamilton was kept on the baseline spec. No diffuser update. No new energy deployment mapping. His job? Validate consistency. Provide clean data. Minimize unknowns. From a team perspective, it made sense. From a driver's perspective, especially a 7-time world champion, it was a message delivered without a word. Inside the garage, the shift became visible. Leclerc's engineers had access to expanded sim tools, race mode flexibility, and multi-compound testing programs. Hamilton's engineers were given narrower windows. Keep the data clean became a repeated instruction. What was once a dual-leader project had now become a one-driver mission. And Hamilton wasn't the chosen one. But this is where Ferrari's strategy began to unravel. Because Lewis didn't protest. He adapted. He shifted focus from hardware to driving. While Leclerc chased performance through upgrades, Hamilton chased precision through control. He fine-tuned brake balance corner by corner. He adjusted throttle application by millisecond intervals. He reprogrammed his racing style to fit the limits of a car no longer being optimized for him, and still, he found pace. By Qatar, engineers noticed something disturbing. Despite being on the outdated spec, Hamilton was posting mini-sector times within striking distance of Leclerc, sometimes even faster. His long-run tire degradation improved. His turn-in speed at low-speed corners was textbook. On the data screens, he was doing more with less, and that began to raise questions Ferrari hadn't prepared for. Was their development model flawed? Or had they just lit a fire under the one driver who knows how to extract performance under pressure? This was no longer about upgrades. It was about resilience. Hamilton didn't need to beat Ferrari publicly. He needed to show, within their own numbers, that he was never the weak link. And now, with every lap, every session, every telemetry log, he's doing exactly that, revealing the flaw in the structure they tried to hide behind politics. Just days after the Brazilian Grand Prix, while media outlets debated strategy failures and pit calls, Ferrari's top leadership delivered their real message, not through team radio or engineering briefings, but through a carefully curated corporate appearance. Ferrari president John Elkann took the stage at a global leadership forum in Milan. It was slick, rehearsed, and surgically precise. A celebration of Ferrari's vision, values, and long-term direction. He spoke about discipline, about consistency, about the team's commitment to drivers that represent Ferrari's DNA. He praised Charles Leclerc by name, calling him a pillar of the future. He nodded to technical progress, to strategic focus, to continuity. But not once did he mention Lewis Hamilton. No name, no reference, no acknowledgement. For a driver of Hamilton's stature, that silence isn't oversight. It's strategy. Ferrari didn't forget to include him, they chose not to. And for millions watching, that moment said everything. In the eyes of the Ferrari boardroom, the future was already chosen. Hamilton's place? Convenient, temporary, and quietly expendable. But here's where their plan collapsed. Lewis didn't react publicly. He didn't post a single word. He didn't criticize. He simply put his head down, returned to the simulator, and delivered one of the most precise technical performances of the season at the very next race. Despite running the older spec, despite receiving no upgrades, Hamilton drove the car back into Q3 on merit. On skill. On fire. Now, Ferrari's silence has become a spotlight, and the more they try to exclude him from the narrative, the more the world sees what they're doing. Because Lewis Hamilton doesn't need press conferences or corporate applause. He only needs the stopwatch and the next lap.